I'll wait till 7. Are we live? We are live. Okay, we're live, everyone.
You can't get taxed on the first $10,000.
Correct.
Right.
Try not to break the handle when I hit it this time.
Yeah, or scare me to death.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the council board meeting to order. We'll start off with a pledge led by Tim Simpson.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Tim. All right, we'll move on now to good news.
Yeah, we didn't have anything specifically planned, but we did hear just previous to the meeting that the Chromebook order that the board approved 3 weeks ago arrived today. So thankfully for your quick action, we've got inventory now that will back us up and start us out for the new school year. So thank you to the board for that. And you're still waiting on the cases, is that correct, Evan?
Yes.
Okay, so the security devices are still on their way, but Chromebooks are in. Good news. Thank you for working on that and getting it done quickly.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess the other, you'll wait for the report for the other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. Good news. And with now we move on to the next section with public comment on agenda items. Do we have anyone here from the public? Nope. All right, very good. We now will move on to revisions and approval of the agenda. I'm not aware of any revisions to the agenda. Does anyone have anything? No. Then I will accept the motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as is.
Support.
Okay, we'll have a roll call. Trustee Benzing?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Chair supports. Motion passed. All right, very good. Discussion items. Rick, you want to start off on the discussion of the TAA negotiations? and
Well,
contract?
I was hopeful that there would be a little bit more to discuss. The board asked for some revisions to the TAA contract, and I submitted a request for language to our attorney. That language piece has not returned yet. So at this time, I have nothing further on that contract. I've made the administrators aware of the fact that we're still waiting for that language. So when that comes in, they and I will meet to discuss it, tentatively agree to it, hopefully, and then refer to the board for further discussion and approval.
So we'll probably end up removing it from the action items from the next one?
Correct. It
Okay.
probably will not be ready for action next meeting, but will be on again as a discussion item when the language is proposed.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Rick, school 2021, 2022 start date?
Right, Lenawee County Schools either are in the process of or have set their start dates, so it's time for us to consider that. All of the districts in Lenawee County, except for 2, are setting August 30th as their start date for the next school year. That is the week before the Labor Day holiday.
The Monday before?
Right. We have the waiver from the state to start as early as 2 weeks before. On the ISD calendar, the tech center is starting the 30th, and all but, I believe, Addison and Sand Creek, who are starting a week earlier. Everyone else is scheduling their school year to start. So I am recommending a start date of August 30th. And it's up for discussion or questions at this time, and then ask that we take action on that at our next meeting.
That's what we had planned for this year, but because of COVID, we pushed it out.
Yeah, last year we had planned to start the week before, and late in the game, we thought that we would put it off to give ourselves a little more time to prepare. After having done everything that we've done for the last 14 months, I don't know that that's going to be necessary going into next year. Hopefully we have fewer restrictions rather than heavier. But I feel comfortable saying that we'll be ready with the moving process for reorganization and still be able to start at that earlier date.
What does that put do you know where that puts the end date?
I don't know where it puts the end date because all of the rest of the calendar is part of negotiations and has to do with where we put our PD days, where they want comp days for conferences and things like that. So the one part of the calendar that is non-negotiable and is the board's responsibility is the start date. And then everything launches from there and is a conversation with the association.
Okay.
What was the reasoning for the shift? Because it's always, for as long as I can remember, we've always had it after the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a lot of families travel during that, last week of summer. So,
Right.
I mean, I think we need to follow the rest of the county, but what was the push to have this earlier start date?
Some of it had to do with state testing dates, but a lot of it, for us, the benefit is to be able to balance the semesters and end the semester at the holiday rather than coming back and having a couple of weeks after the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And we're
So
good with this
starting
date
a little
versus-
earlier gives us a closer balance. It's still not an equal balance, but we typically have more snow days in the second semester. So a lot of times the number of days will get balanced by Mother Nature. But by starting that week earlier, it just gives us a little bit better balance to the semesters.
So it's done before Christmas.
Yes, our calendar is to have the semester finished
Right.
just prior to Christmas break.
Because that
So-
gap used to be about 3 weeks, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So we're really only shaving a week off it. Would it benefit us to start even a week earlier?
In that respect, it certainly would.
But the rest of the
But
county isn't going for
the
that.
rest of the county is not. The tech center won't be open. That complicates things a little bit for 4 days. And then, as you mentioned, shortens the summers for travel and, less time for preparation for teachers. And this year, in our case, reorganization and moving.
I think, as I remember, I wasn't on the board a year ago, but I think a lot of this has to do with Labor Day so late, right? Last year, Labor Day was as late as it could be, and this year it's like 1 day shorter of as late as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Labor Day isn't until the 6th this year.
Probably got
So
a
that-
lot to do with the state mandate.
And that's
as
why
well.
I think that's why the state allowed it, is because Labor Day was so late.
Well, the state pretty much mandated that nobody could go back to school. And then they lifted that mandate. Everybody could make
Just
up
for
their
a few
own mind.
years, right? Just for a couple years.
Quite a
Well,
few, I think.
last year especially because of the pandemic. So August 30th would keep us in line with the tech center start date and the rest of the county calendar minus those two.
And it's really all relative because if you start earlier, you're done earlier.
Correct. But the big benefit for us is to get closer to a balance of the
Right. And that makes
semesters.
sense. It'd be hard to come back after the holiday and try to finish up one week.
It was, we were used to doing it, so
Right.
it didn't seem difficult, but really educationally, it makes more sense
Sure.
to
Yep.
have things done before the holiday break.
One of the things that we talked about, and I can't remember if you were on yet or not, but we talked about trimesters to
split that up even better, where that gave the kids a halfway point to kind of make corrections and get out of bad places. I believe that, were you part of that conversation?
I wasn't a part of that conversation at the time, but I know that for our K4 students, we're in a trimester calendar. So we have that. High school, in terms of credits and things like that, that would be a broader discussion about, exactly how that would work and how the courses that are now semester courses, how that would fit into a trimester schedule. So it would require a little bit more thought and planning.
We used to have trimesters, didn't we? Kind of went away for that for a reason.
I don't know that there's been trimesters.
Oh, it was block scheduling I'm thinking of.
A
Yeah,
block
that-
schedule, yes, but I don't believe that we've had a trimester schedule at our high school, at least in my tenure here for the last 30. But yeah, if you have more questions or thoughts about it, the next couple of weeks, let me know and I'll try to get you more information. But for now, the recommendation is to start on the 30th of August.
We good?
I'm good.
Good? Okay. All right, thanks, Rick. Now you're on again. LISD update regarding board member appointment.
Right. The position that was vacated by Member Johnson has been advertised. People who are submitting an application have until Friday this week, the 16th, to make application for that. To my knowledge, there are currently 3 applicants for that position, and their time schedule is to interview those candidates in a formal setting at a meeting on the 22nd of April, which I believe is a Thursday. And we'll make a decision that night on who will be placed in that seat. So that member should be available for our next meeting on the 26th. We have another opening that I will talk about in my superintendent's report, and that has a little bit of a different timeline.
Do we know who the 3 people are, or we can't say yet?
I don't know that I can publicly
Okay.
say that right now. I don't know that I'm restricted either, but I think the thing to do is just not report on that at this time.
But we can go to that meeting and watch if we wanted to, right?
We can. It will be a public meeting, and
Do you know what time it is?
I believe that it's a 7 o'clock meeting, but I'll make sure that we get you that information
Okay,
accurately.
thanks, Rick.
They're having another meeting that night for another purpose, and I don't remember what it is. Do you remember what it is? They have a budget committee or something that they're getting together for previous to that, and then they're doing this portion of their
Okay.
agenda. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? All right, we'll move on. Budget committee update. Becky's not here, so John, I can just real quick, this is a real quick point. You mind if I just bring it up?
No, go ahead.
Last month or 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, we voted on the purchase of the Chromebooks. At that time, we were told that the ComDoc was going to be the vendor. Turns out it's ESI. The notebooks, as we said earlier, are here, but we just wanted to make the board aware that when you see it on the ledger, it's going to be ESI, not ComDoc. I guess they're both part of Xerox, just as kind of a minor technicality, but we wanted to make the board aware of that. Did I miss anything? Is that? No, that's correct. Okay. Any questions on that?
No?
All right.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to gifts and donations.
More generosity coming from members of the community. These are specific gifts dedicated to parts of our program. One is a $1,000 donation from former staff member Ron Frenzen to be dedicated to the THS Sculpture Garden, which continues to grow and be supported by members of the community and outside of our community. So we recommend thanks to Ron and acceptance of that gift. And then we have two more donations to the ever-growing middle school strength and conditioning program. A personal donation from community member Brent Ganaki for $150, and then a company donation from Krieghoff of $300 for that middle school weight room. So recommend and thank those individuals as well for your support.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sure. For sure, that's great. I mean, this is probably a question I should have asked before. Do we have any idea how far we are on that middle school, what the total donations are?
I think that puts the donations just over $22,000. That includes some of the activity money that was added by the athletic department. And there's another large donor of 3,000, but yeah, all the little bits add up, and it's going to be quite a nice quality kind of a restart for the weight room at the middle school has existed in various forms over the last several years. But this will be the first time that it's been dedicated for specifically our athletes and our PE students in a program that will stream into the high school's strength and conditioning program. So very nice. Very nice.
So it's
to
a
have.
class they can take.
Correct. It'll be part of all of the PE classes, 5-8. Obviously, the younger kids will be doing some things that
Right.
by the time they get to 8th grade, they'll have lots
More
of
resistance
skills.
and sure.
Yeah, lots of skills and ability and understanding and learning respect for the proper use and implementation of those items.
And we expect that to start with the next school year?
Yes, we should be ready for them come the start of the next school year.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move on to action items. Suzanne?
I hereby move to accept with thanks, a lot of thanks, the $1,000 gift donation from Mr. Ron Frenzen. Said funds are earmarked for the sculpture garden at Tecumseh High School.
Support.
We have motion made and supported. We'll have a roll call vote. Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Benzing?
Aye.
Chair supports with thanks. Thanks very much, Mr. Frenz.
I hereby move to accept with thanks, a lot of thanks again, the following gifts and donations. $150 from Brent, how do you say that? Kanaki, and $300 from Krieghoff Glenaway. Said funds are earmarked for the middle school strength and conditioning program. Thank you very much.
Support.
We have a motion that's been made and supported for accepting donation for the middle school wrestling program. Weightlifting program. We'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Benzing?
Aye.
The chair supports, says aye with, again, many thanks to all these people. It's really amazing how this grassroots thing has just blossomed, and the amount of money is really great. That's incredible. All right. We'll now move on to the district business administration. The consent agenda.
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of March 8th, 2021, and minutes from the regular board meeting of March 22nd, 2021.
Support.
We have a motion that's been made to approve the consent agenda and seconded. A roll call vote. Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Benzing?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion pass. We'll now move on to superintendent report.
Okay, got 3 items. The first one is several paragraph statement that I want to read for the board and for the community following along. On Friday, April 2nd, I was notified that the board seat held by Rebecca Brooks may actually be vacant due to the fact that she did not take the oath of office at the January organizational meeting and that she did not have a certificate of acceptance on file from the November election with the Lenawee County Clerk. Following a conversation with the board president and our attorney, I asked the attorney to provide a written opinion in the matter and advise the district on our next steps. On Wednesday, April 7th, the board was provided a letter that stated in part, the office of a school board member becomes vacant immediately regardless of declaration by an officer or acceptance by the school board or one or more of its members upon any of the following events. The school board member's neglect or failure to file the acceptance of office, to take the oath of office, or to give or renew an official bond required by law. It was the recommendation of our attorney that the district should contact the LISD and discuss making an appointment to fill the board seat vacated by Ms. Brooks. I immediately made that request to the ISD verbally and then on April 7th again in writing. Also, I had a conversation today with Superintendent Mark Haig of the ISD and stated that the board will want to allow the same amount of time for applications to be turned in as was allowed for the Kevin Johnson seat, which was 2 weeks. Therefore, the ISD will not fill the Brooks seat on the same night, April 22nd, and on the night that they appoint the seat for the Johnson vacancy. The timeline for the Brooks vacancy has not been established, but a press release will be coming out soon from the ISD declaring that timeline. Further, I would like to clearly state that Ms. Brooks was advised in January that she did not need to take the oath of office due to her status as an incumbent. I sincerely hope that the ISD board considers this information and will uphold the November election results by awarding the seat back to Mrs. Brooks. So that explains her absence tonight, and they will be working on that. But as I said, they advertised the closing as April 16th for the Johnson position, and they want to give, due to fairness, all candidates who would like to submit for that opening the same amount of time.
She never received the certification thing either, did she? It's almost like they left her name off accidentally or something.
In communication with her today, she indicated that she did not receive her certificate of acceptance in the
Right.
mail.
That all comes from the county?
And that comes from the county clerk, right?
Wasn't there an issue with Denby Johnson Burgess where something similar happened? No?
Yeah.
It'd probably be something you'd want to forget. If it even happened, I don't know. I just had heard that. I thought something similar happened.
Right.
Yep.
So given that timeline, that seat probably would not be refilled until at the soonest, the first May meeting. But again, it's out of our control. I've given them my input and made my suggestions, but they are free to do what they can and what they will based on their own schedule.
Okay.
2 other pieces of information. Because of that, because of our vacancies, we do have a board retreat that we had scheduled for the end of April, and I think that it's prudent that we put that off and reschedule that retreat for a time perhaps later in May. I'll have Terry work with you on, we'll put out some suggested dates.
Okay.
Do a calendar event and get that rescheduled. But I think it's important that all 7 seats are filled when
Yeah, I
we have
agree.
that retreat. And then just want to remind the community and the board of the pool millage renewal that is coming up on May 4th. This is not a new tax to any of our residents. It's a renewal of a 5-year funding for the community pool. 5 years ago, there was a board in place. It was called the Friends of the Tecumseh Pool. And they ran the campaign, and they got the committees together to go out and promote it. And because they were not actually part of the school system, they could say which way they wanted people to vote. The school district cannot do that. All we can do is provide information and encourage people to go out and vote. Obviously, it's the major funding source for the community pool. And obviously, the school district benefits from the use of the pool. It's connected to one of our buildings, but it is surely a community resource. And the $250,000 that is levied is basically about $25 per $100,000 of taxable value in a home. So a person with a $200,000 home pays about $25 a year to support the community pool. So it's not a large expense, but it is a large benefit to our community. And just want to make sure that people understand that it's not a new tax, that it generates about $230,000, which is the bulk of the budget for the community pool. And hope that everybody can get out to vote on that on May 4th.
And you said that's $25 per 100,000 or
It's about
10 or 15?
$25 per 100,000 of
Okay.
taxable value. So a $200,000 home would have a taxable value of 100,000.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So
Therefore,
$25,
On
yeah.
a $250,000 pay
Yeah.
$25. Part of that portion of their tax bill would come back to the school district to support it. It's called a recreational millage, and a recreational millage can be used for community pools, playgrounds, things like that. Many communities in Michigan, like our own, communities and schools share common
Right.
areas for parks and things
Yeah.
like that. And in this case, a pool. So it's called a recreational millage. And we need it because if that doesn't support the operational costs of the pool, then those costs would fall to the district to decide if we want to continue to use the pool. So encourage everybody to vote on May 4th, and they can certainly call my office anytime for further information.
Are we running any kind of ad to explain exactly?
Yeah, we
this
do
is not a
have-
new tax, this is what
We
it's-
do have information. We can't put anything on there that says vote yes or vote no.
Right, right.
But we do have all the information, and Victor has provided that
Okay.
for local papers through our own social media. I'll have statements the next couple of weeks on the Sunday phone call, and
Okay.
I'll push it out through our email. We're also pushing it out through the city and their email database
Okay.
so that it goes to residents that don't have school-age kids.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. The item scheduled for next event, next agenda will be good news. We'll have some discussion items, action items. We will vote on the 2021 school start date. We will get an update and hopefully welcome a new board member. And although we won't do board officer positions, right? Because we'll wait for the 7th person to be
Yeah,
seated.
so the second and fourth one will be crossed out for
Right.
next week.
Right, and at that
far as-
time, the only board officer position that will be open is the vice president. You'll be seated as the president due to our board policy until the end of the term. If a nomination is made and supported and voted on that removes an officer from a current position. So if the secretary becomes the vice president, then the board would have to re-vote on that secretary.
What about the
position.
fact, oh, no, when we voted, everybody was within their 30 days. So
Right.
that all's good. Okay,
Correct.
good.
So John is treasurer. Will he remain treasurer? Or will we have to redo that?
He'll remain treasurer unless he
Unless he
is,
gets.
is nominated
Yeah.
and voted
Okay.
into the vice president.
Then why does
position.
it say all these different positions? Should it just say vice president?
Right, yeah, the vice
Okay.
president is really the only one that has to be filled when we,
It's the only one that can be filled.
right.
The other ones are already set.
Unless
They're already
I
set,
become vice
unless-
president or you
Oh,
become
yeah,
vice
unless
president.
somebody,
Oh, wait,
right, right.
Becky was the secretary, right?
Becky was the secretary.
So we'll have to fill that one.
Unless she gets reappointed. So
Well, I
we'll
don't
cross
see
that
any
bridge when
reason
we
why
come to
Becky
it.
wouldn't be coming back.
Hey, well, it's not up to us to decide, but just the question is, does she automatically assume that position again, or do we have to vote her into it?
I think because at the time she wasn't considered a board member, I think that we would have to reseat her. in
Well, at
that
the time we voted for everyone and it was within that 30 days. So those were legit votes, right? Otherwise we'd have to redo everything.
You know, we'll have to figure
Yeah,
that
can you
out
look into
because
that more and get me some?
The letter that we received from the attorney, as you know, in this case, it didn't talk about the 30 days. It talked about the fact that her position was vacant immediately upon not taking the oath.
Right.
So that was at the beginning of that meeting before any of the
Oh,
officers
so then
were seated.
her vote and Kevin's vote Kevin's vote did count.
So I
No, Kevin's vote did not.
I don't think.
So then
that
why
those
wouldn't we
votes
have to
count.
redo everything if Kevin's vote didn't count and Becky's vote didn't count? I
Well,
mean,
we'll
that
have
could
to go-
change the whole thing.
We'll have to go back and look to see what the voting margins were for each of those positions.
Yeah, and
I
then if you
don't
would
think that
ask
there
the
was
lawyers, I
anything
just
that
want to
was-
make sure we get it right.
I think everything that was voted on was voted unanimously, except for maybe one. We'll look at those votes and get it figured out so that.
Right,
we
but
can
if
get a
one
better
doesn't-
price.
Isn't legit, then yeah, I don't know.
Right, yep. We want to get that right.
Yeah, make sure we get it right.
Yeah, we need to hear. For sure. Okay, so we'll take that off as well because we want to wait until all 7 are seated to proceed.
I believe that that's the way to do it.
Okay, then we can double check on that. All right, we'll now move to the closing. We have now any public comment? I don't see anybody from the public. All right. Move on to board member comment and discussion. Fellow board members, any comments?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Becky Brooks issue. This was obviously a clerical error and a mistake that was made. I think as a board, we need to reach out to the ISD and ask them to fix this mistake for us at the next available meeting. I understand that they're saying they want more time to look at candidates, but honestly, Becky was not, this isn't a appointed seat. Becky was elected into this position. This was a clerical error. And we're asking the ISD to fix a clerical error. So if they're going to look at any other candidate other than Becky for this position, I would really need to understand why. Because they would be going against the will of the community and the vote that was taken in November. So I think as a board, we need to ask the ISD to reinstate Becky at their next meeting, which is April 22nd.
Can they do that, or do they have a process that they are
They can
bound
do whatever
by?
they want. It's their process.
Right. Yeah, and our board is free to make recommendations, but they
And they can either take them or not.
may
take
or
'em.
may not take those into consideration.
I would strongly agree with that recommendation. I mean, she
Anyone
was
else?
elected and it was a clerical error. It was not her fault. Which, I mean, the whole thing is kind of odd, but
Well, I respect John's opinion on it should go to Becky. I made that clear to Rick, Suzanne. I mean, if it's clerical error, it's a clerical error and it
Right.
represents the will of the people. But if you back up, what was the precedent you set in December when you didn't put Lynn Davis on? You put Kevin
She
in.
wasn't elected.
Well, she was the next highest vote.
She
getter.
wasn't
She wasn't
elected.
elected.
period.
Okay, well, I think you're treading on.
No,
No, you're trying to fit your agenda.
No, I'm not. I'm
We've got
trying-
board
you're-
members
you're ma-
actively removing
you-
members
you
of this
mentioned will of
board.
the people, John. That was my point then. I'm
Lynn
gonna stick
Davis
with
was
it.
not elected.
Okay, but she was the next person in the election to get.
right, but this is totally different.
This is 100% different.
I mean,
don't
I
see it
was also
100%
elected
different.
to make the best decision I can make. And
I
I
get that.
just, she came from the old board and I wasn't fond of their position. And so I felt Kevin was the best one.
Okay,
So that's my opinion because I get to vote on that. And I was elected. So I do understand, but she was clearly elected and this was clearly an
And-
error. And I do agree with John. I hope they do the right thing.
I just don't think you can have two bites of the apple.
You're talking about
We're
apples
talking
and
about
oranges,
apples and
sorry.
oranges.
I don't see it that way.
And why would you want to get rid of Becky?
I don't. I just said, I talked to Rick already about it and Suzanne, I think she should be put back.
Yeah,
on.
you do. We'll stick with this subject. Don't bring up the other subject.
Tony, nothing?
Well, no, I'm thinking, I'm processing, right? I mean, I have always supported the will of the people. So I don't know, I guess I'm being new in this position. I'm trying to figure out how we do that. Do we do that by individually sending them a message? I mean, do we have to, we really can't vote on that. I mean, I don't know what the process is.
But as a board, we could strongly recommend that they look at Becky and get her back into the position as soon as possible.
Well, Rick did read that statement tonight and he hoped that they would do that. And I would, whatever you think is the best avenue, whether we should all write emails or if we should I mean, I don't know if we can as a board say that that's how we feel or
I think,
I don't know, maybe as a,
I think putting
I know
our
that-
opinion out there and putting a message out there that this board is in agreement that we should be bringing Becky back is a message.
I think that if you decide that each board member would write their own statement, that you have to phrase that as an opinion, because individual board members don't have any power to make recommendations for the full
Right.
board. But as a sitting board member, each member has the ability to express their opinion to the ISD board to say, this is what I think.
right. And anyone has an opinion, the opportunity to do that.
Any person can do that.
But as a board, we can't really say as a unit, but as individuals, you're saying.
I don't know that there's a formal process for that, for the board to say unless each member agrees to sign on to, a joint letter that was authored through the president. Not exactly sure how to advise that.
No,
This is
me
all
neither.
a pretty new instance. I can say that our attorneys had probably as much trouble writing this opinion as they did the previous one with Member Johnson, because these just aren't things that happen. I will, as the superintendent, as I stated in my statement tonight, I have given that opinion verbally to Mr. Haig, and I will be putting that opinion in
Okay.
writing to
I will too, then I'll put it in writing.
the board collectively.
Well, if Tony wants to put something together, I'll be happy to sign it.
so
Yeah, I
do
would
we have
sign
to
it
sign
too.
as a complete board or?
Whoever supports it. I mean, if there's people on here that don't support it, they don't have to sign it. But I'm saying right now that I would.
I would too. It's the right thing to do. If we don't do it as a board, I'll do it as an individual.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I'm stammering because I'm thinking, I'm sure the whole board would not support that. I'm guessing the whole board.
Well, I know at least one member is not
Yeah.
going to support it. That's
Yeah.
obvious.
So do we need to, for the board to write, do we need
Who
to
would
have?
that be?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
No,
The man that got her thrown off.
Excuse me, Jen, I didn't get her thrown off. Michigan law got her thrown off. Would you like this board to break Michigan law? Is that what you're asking this board to do? Yes or no?
Well,
Vendetta?
It's okay
Yes
with
or
other
no?
things. You guys support other things that have broke Michigan law. You want to talk about those?
Sure. Let's hear it.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we can't talk about those.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Does anybody else have an opinion on this?
Nope.
Maybe not.
All right. I don't know. Is this something I should talk to Ray about?
I certainly could gather that.
I just want to make
Opinion.
sure. I mean, we've done,
My recommendation is that each board member write their own statement and submit it to Mr. Haig to give to their board.
we're really in uncharted waters here. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd have to, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem writing a letter, but if the whole board doesn't support it, is that something we should do? Or should we,
That's fine. I'll write my own letters.
I don't know. I guess I would like more comment from everybody. I'd like to think about it. I don't want it to represent something that the board doesn't support. Obviously, a lot of us do support that. I mean, but we'll
Do you?
I just said that. I mean,
You
listen, I
support her
support
comeback,
I
yeah.
support the will of the people.
Yeah.
I support the will of people through the whole process. Right? The people have voted.
Yeah.
I mean,
And people
We'll leave it-
won. People lost and people won.
I choose not to get into. I mean,
Yeah.
in this particular instance,
know.
you and I will agree,
We will agree.
and
She
that
won.
she did win that.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into the other
No,
thing.
other
We'll let
people
that-
lost.
But other people did lose.
Other people won, right?
Right. Other people did lose.
That's why you're sitting here. You won.
Yep. All right. Any other comment or discussion? The only thing I have, I want to go along with Rick and urge the public to go out and support the pool renewal. I mean, I think, I guess I'm allowed to say that, right? I urge the people to do that. The pool is an important part of the community, and I urge them to do that. Any other comments? I will then accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Support.
So funny.
All in favor, say aye.
I'm gonna have to
Aye.
smack
Aye.
somebody with support.